Welcome to For Book Lovers Only Television, your source for in-depth author interviews. For Book Lovers Only Television is a proud member of the Village Connector Media Network. If you love books, we have a home for you. Now time for your host and chief book lover, Rob Brown.
Welcome, book lovers, to For Book Lovers Only Television. Wherever you love books, we have a home for you. My name is Rob Brown, your internet television host, and I am here with Lydia Mann, author of The Nightmare King. Thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thank you.
Well, tell me a little bit about your background, because you and I just met recently. Tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, I am a video producer, and I work with summer camps. And so for the last 29 years, I've gotten to be a big kid, which is great, because there's a 12-year-old that lives in my head. And that 12-year-old that lives in my head helped me write The Nightmare King.
Okay, so you're a video producer. You said the 12-year-old lives in your head.
Hey, it's way more fun to have a 12-year-old in your head, because life's way too short to be grumpy. Adulthood's completely overrated. And so why not be a 12-year-old?
Okay, now The Nightmare King, you've had the concept for this. Was this something that you thought about when you were a child, or is this like, just recently you decided to write the book? Or?
Well, I have a slight confession to make. The first draft of this was actually written years ago when I was in graduate school. My niece and nephew were young at the time, and I was taking a lot of creative writing courses. I was taking screenwriting and really kind of exploring, do I have the chops to write? I didn't know. So graduate school is a great time to do that. And so I started this as a short story for my niece and nephew, Josh and Meredith, who are now grown. And so it was my way of trying to communicate some important life lessons. Things like, you're braver than you really think you are. You're smarter than you think you are. So there just happens to be a brother and a sister in this book, Andy and Lee, and they have to travel to the land of dreams to rescue someone they love from the clutches of the Nightmare King. Cue the scary music. And so through their journey, they have to collect what are called the seals. They're like a medallion. So there's the seal of wisdom, there's the seal of courage, and the seal of invisibility. And so those seals help them to infiltrate the Nightmare King's castle. But obviously, if you're going to have a seal, there's a test. Because what's a quest without some tests? So, the seal of wisdom, they have to figure out riddles. The seal of courage, they have to face their fears. And so in that journey, not only do the characters grow, but it helps the readers who are, probably 5th, 6th grade level readers, kind of start to incorporate those life lessons.
So tell me a little bit. So this is a children's book. This is specifically for 5th and 6th graders?
Yeah, that reading group, yeah.
Okay. Now, what type of feedback have you gotten from 5th and 6th graders, and also from teachers that have read the book and the parents?
They love it. I've had more than one person say, boy, this needs to be a movie. Steven Spielberg, are you listening? And so, and I've done school visits. I love doing school visits. Kids have the best imaginations. And pardon me if I get on my soapbox just a little bit.
No, this is the time to
Okay,
get on.
I'm going to get on my soapbox just a little bit. We are testing the absolute snot out of children. And it's important that we all learn the basics and that we learn to sort of work within the box. It's important. It's life, blah, blah, blah. But there's that time where you jump outside the box and you dream about dragons and you, and you think about, going on quests and being adventurous. And I think sometimes we are holding our kids kind of in the box too much. So that's my little soapbox. It's like, let's let kids use their imagination and try new things and learn new things. And so, that was within this book and the series. It's a series, The Shadow of Dragons, and so there's 2 and 3 coming. And it was my way of just sort of saying, hey, it's okay to just think, what if? You know, what if we could travel somewhere where there's talking animals and dragons? And by the way, Shadow, the dragon that's on the cover, he's a good guy because I love dragons.
So you said you have a second and third coming out?
Yes.
When will they be coming out?
Hopefully within the next year. You know, as a author, most of us juggle other responsibilities, and so life sometimes will get in the way of your plans. And so I had some things that got in my way last year, but I'm back to writing the sequels, and I'm pretty excited about what seems to be coming out of my head, because a lot of authors will tell you, you think you have a plan for your book and your story, and then all of a sudden the characters go, oh really? Well, we're going to go over here. And that's one of the fun things about writing, and I think that's where the 12-year-old in my head gets to have a lot of fun, especially in that first draft. And that's what, when I speak to kids about creative writing, that's what I talk to them about, is in that first draft, it's that what if. You know, what if we could go to a place that has dragons, or what if we could fly a rocket ship to the moon, or what if. In that first draft, there are no rules, there are no bad answers, so just get it out. And then go back and start editing and figuring out, okay, this little plot twist that this character took me on really doesn't help move the story, so maybe I need to trim that out. But when I'm talking to school kids, I even talk about, you use different parts of your brain for the creative side versus the sort of editing side. And so when I'm writing that first draft, I try to tell the editor in my head, you go sit over here, and when we get to after the first draft is done, you get to come over and start tearing my words apart.
I'm always interested in learning about authors, like with regards to them writing. Is there a particular zone that they have to be in? Because some authors will say, oh, you know, I write best at night, or I write best when I'm early, it's early in the morning, and you know, I've just woken up and you know, had a great dream, and I want to incorporate that in my book. Is there a particular time of the day that you love to write, or like a zone that you get in?
You know, my zone tends to be highly caffeinated. I think a lot of writers would say, yeah, caffeine definitely helps. You know, I'm a snatch and grab person. You know, life is very busy for me, and so I try to set aside, you know, a daily time. That's my goal. It doesn't always happen, but there were times when I was writing this book that, for example, there's a certain scene in the book that I woke up one Saturday morning, I didn't have anything else to do, and I knew exactly what needed to happen. It was like my subconscious had lots of fun that night or something. So I woke up and I grabbed a pen and the biggest cup of coffee I could find, and I just went. And I went for 6 hours straight. I mean, I would stop. I write my first drafts by hand. And so I would stop and rest my hand and then, you know, get going again. You know, this is my first book, so I'm still learning how to do all of this. But I guess my biggest thing is, you don't know till you try. And so I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Now, do you ever experience writer's block?
Oh yeah, I guess everybody does.
Okay, because it just sounds like, I mean, if you wrote for 6 hours, that's actually the complete opposite of writing.
Oh yeah, that's a zone, man. And as I was writing that, I was like, I don't know. But that's when those characters just come pouring out of your head and tell you what to do. It's very cool. Yeah, you do get writer's block sometimes, and you know, there are some days I am very disciplined and I sit down and I plow through. And then other days I'm like, yeah, let's just go walk the dog. You know, or move on to something else, because I do live a hectic life like 99.9% of the rest of the population. And so, you know, if it just ain't coming, well, I've probably got 10 other things I need to be doing too. So.
Are there authors out there that have influenced you or influenced the way that you write your books?
Oh yeah. I would never presume to put myself anywhere in the same category equal to C.S. Lewis, but I've had people tell me that this book kind of reminds them of that Narnia type, world building. And he was an awesome influence on my life. I was one of those little girls that was in love with horses. And so in the 5th grade, if it didn't have a horse in it, I didn't read it. Got in big trouble because my mom was a teacher. After she reinforced the Board of Education, I would learn to read on the book list, even if it didn't have horse in it. So I'm thinking, subconsciously maybe Shadow is also, kind of a projection of a horse or something. Right. And there are tons of horse stories in my head, and so those will get written too. But I loved like the Black Stallion series by Walter Farley. I mean, that's such a classic. Marguerite Henry's books, Misty of Chincoteague and all of that. Love those. Here lately, this is the other fun thing about being a kids writer is, you have the excuse to read all these kids books. And there is a author, his name is Matt, please forgive me for massacring his last name, Matt McClashix or something like that. Anyway, he's written a series called The Accidental Hero. Jack Blank is his character. And if you have a kid who, especially a boy, who thinks he doesn't want to read, get that book. They're awesome. It's about a kid with superpowers and he doesn't know that he has superpowers and all that. And he also, his newest series has come out with a kid who is an orphan pirate. So, those are the kind of kids' books that appeal to me.
And for our book lovers who are thinking about potentially writing their own book, what type of advice would you give them with regards to taking that step and really moving forward?
Just do it. Just do it. For some people, writing by hand really works for them. It works for me. There is some scientific data out there, that your hand is connected to your brain, blah, blah, blah. But I know other authors, like my sister is an author, C.J. Peterson, and she sits down in the same spot on her couch and gets her laptop and her Dr. Pepper, because she doesn't drink coffee, and she just hammers away at the keyboard. But she doesn't edit while she's doing that. That's the one thing. Do not edit when you're working on that first draft, because you'll shut down that creative side of your brain.
That's great advice, and I'm so happy that you were able to come on our show. Lydia, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The book is The Nightmare King. It is available at forbookloversonly.com. That's www.forbookloversonly.com. Lydia, thank you so much. And when you have Series 2 and 3, please come back on our show.
Oh, heck yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you. We're out of time, but I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you are watching our show for the first time, please visit www.forbookloversonly.com. That's www.forbookloversonly.com and join our Book Lovers Club. We have a great Book Lovers Club. It's absolutely free. We have a lot of updates about great new authors, new books, book signings, and book fairs. My name is Rob Brown, your internet television host and chief book lover, and this is For Book Lovers Only Television, where if you love books, we have a home for you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.